Hey everybody, Happy New Year. Thanks for tuning in. The next 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes, here we go, is inspired by an Applebee's self-evaluation form. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome to the engine. I had a paper route as I was growing up in Concord, and I had the paper route from the beginning of, or kind of middle of 8th grade until right around the end of my senior year in high school. And a friend of mine on the swim team had a job at Applebee's. She was like a host, right? So it's eating good in the neighborhood, kind of just trash food. But Applebee's was cool for me back then. I was like, hey, they're gonna pay me. They're gonna pay me. So I got my khaki pants with no observable pockets, and I had to purchase my Applebee's shirt, which was all very exciting. And I went to work at Applebee's, and I was a host to begin with. Now I was a dynamite host. First off, I can talk to anyone. So people would roll in and be like, hey, how are you? Hey, good afternoon. Or, good evening. Whatever, how many in your party? So I'd seat them. I was also really hard working, so I would bus like crazy. So at Applebee's, there aren't any official bussers. What they anticipate doing is the servers will bus their own tables, or the hosts, as they're just standing at the podium near the door, will go bus the tables. So there were usually two hosts, and if there was nothing going on, one of us would stay there and the other would go and bus the tables, and I could bus like a madman. I'm Mexican, so I got that in me. So I'd bust these tables. And interestingly enough, so no, my dad, when he was in high school, worked at a short order chef in a little diner too. So genuinely in my blood. My point is, I'd bus, and I was a host, and then I became a server. They liked my work ethic. They're like, hey, look, we'll help you kind of step up. So I'd get these shifts for like 3-4 hours, get tips and everything, and it was great for the time. It was not one of those things I really wanted to make a large career out of. And once you see the back end of a restaurant kitchen, you're kind of like, oh, what's going on here? Anyway, I don't eat at Applebee's anymore. My point is that I worked there for some time. Now, again, I was planning on going to college, right? We all knew I was going to Cal. Chat with people about it. They knew I had goals and aspirations and was leaving in just a couple months. And towards the end, they still made me do this employee self-evaluation thing. And I was like, God, man, what is this? Because it came at the point where I was literally leaving in like 2 weeks. And I was like, what am I going to do with this silly evaluation form, right? And you had to fill it out. You had to respond yourself to the questions. And then you had to sit down with one of the managers and talk about it, because the team would rate you, the management team would rate you, and then you had to rate yourself and figure out where you could reconcile, where you were not lined up or where you were in line, and that was it. So I'm going through this form, and it's in my estimation, it's a little ridiculous. And they're asking things like, what do you think about your attention to detail? Or what do you think about your performance was, from an endurance standpoint? What's your communication like with the team members? Are you punctual? Things like this. So I'm going through. And the point of the form to me at this point is just kind of get through it. So I'm like, yeah, I got great endurance. And I actually got marked down for that, which was funny because I had worked an 8-hour shift, and at some point I asked if I could take like a lunch break or something. They're like, no, I mean, if you need to grab like a Coke or something, that's fine. I'm like, I'm working 8 hours straight, but again, Applebee's. So I go through this form, and then I sit down with the manager, and I have ridiculous views of my own performance. Of course, I'm 18, and I'm like, yeah, I did a great job. And they're like, well, yeah, okay, you did an okay job. And so we go through and we check off, all the boxes and talk about the things that we're not on the same page with and what I could do better. And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, like, what are we doing? Like, this is for somebody who's going to be working for the Applebee's Corporation as like a career path. And that is not me. Nothing against you Applebee's managers. But here's the thing. I've been thinking about that valuation quite a bit lately. And especially considering it's the new year, I don't know why, but I was standing in line at Pete's today thinking about it. And it was such an interesting thing because, again, everybody knew I was leaving. And it was so silly to me that the managers made me go through with this. At the time, I was like, this is just a waste of everybody's time. Like, I'm not going to be working here any longer. Why are we doing this? And that's been bothering me a lot because Applebees is a large corporation. They have systems in place to be Applebees, right? Because you can't survive at that level without having some reasonable business system. So they were making me go through this, and it wasn't just that they were being silly. What I've realized is that the managers who I got along with very, very well, they all liked me. They were doing it for me. And I never got that until recently. Because look, here's the thing, okay? One of the problems is that I actually did get along with the managers really well, okay? So if I showed up a little bit late, they kind of gave me a hard time, but it wasn't terrible, okay? And I would always stay and chat with them after work and, help them fold napkins and do all kinds of things. And again, I was reliable when I was working. I was one of the hardest workers. So I got along with them. And because I got along with them, there were a couple of them that I think really had my best interest at heart, but they had a really hard time trying to address with me. I mean, the managers there were not that old. They were like 25-ish. One guy I think was 27, this guy Scott, but I was 18. So, I mean, like, I'm not saying they didn't have seniority and they couldn't have cracked the whip, but again, I'm pretty personable, so I make that difficult for people at times. I've realized that. The more you get along with people, the harder it is for them to call you out. The self-evaluation and the kind of sit down was for them to tell me what I could do better just in general. Not at Applebee's, but like, look, could you be more punctual? Yeah, you could be more punctual. And I was like, what does it matter? I'm not going to be working here in 2 weeks. Why do you care if I'm punctual? They cared about me. They cared about me understanding where my blind spots were. They cared about me understanding where my problems were as an employee, as somebody who's trying to get a job done. And when I kind of realize that, I look back at the care that they put into with that self-evaluation and the critique form, and I really want to express appreciation to them. I have no idea where these people are, and odds of them listening to this are 0. But I greatly appreciate what they did. I greatly appreciate that there were these people that were like trying to figure out a way to make me better. And it's such a frustrating thing because so frequently, when I was younger at the very least, I would look at things like that and just blow them off and be like, God, I'm better than most people, so why are you giving me a hard time? And it's true. I was better than most of the employees. I worked really fast. I was reasonably on time. It was good communication skills. Like, I was better than most of the employees. But they cared enough about me in spite of myself, in spite of me being this goofy person who just wouldn't listen. They cared enough to be like, yes, you might be better than most, but you could be better. That was one of the hardest things for me to realize in life. I didn't get that last point until I was well into my 20s. You can be better than most, but it doesn't mean you can't be better. And for people, especially younger people who are better than most, the difficulty that comes along with recognizing that and then seeing that you could be better yet, it's unbelievable. I remember it very distinctly. So look, if you're better than the average bear, good for you, right? I fancy myself better than the average bear in quite a few things, but I don't spend time thinking about that. I spend time looking for the things that I can do better yet. I spend time seeking out the feedback from people, especially when they don't want to tell me. I want their feedback to find out what could be improved. If you're better than the average bear, good for you. Good for you. It's January 1st. We're going into 2021. Good for you for being above average. But I'm willing to bet you can still be a little bit better. And there is no time like the present to start getting better. I'm Matt Todd, and this is the engine that drives me. Go out and crush it.